So welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we've got Old Faithful F Pace, and we've been lucky enough to have been loaned the new shape F Pace by Harwood's in Chichester. So today we're going to compare the two and see how they stack up against each other. I need to get down off of here without hurting myself and take this out for a test drive. So what we've got here today is the 2-litre diesel mild hybrid 2022 F Pace. It's the R Sport variant. The R Sport denotes the trim level. And being a mild hybrid, this has a battery assist. That does things such as help your fuel economy and give you a little bit more performance. This is probably a middle of the range in terms of spec. And it's wrapped in this gorgeous blue, which I'm going to be honest, I need to look up what blue this is and I'll pop it down the bottom of the screen there. So first of all, let's talk about the exterior of the car. Jaguar have done a lot of subtle yet very, very noticeable changes to the outside of this car that, in my opinion, just makes it look so much more modern than its predecessor. The front grille and the bonnet has been totally redesigned. This now comes further down, whereas before it stopped up here and met with the front bumper. This gives you a much bigger grille with a more modernistic or modernised looking effect to the grille here, and a bigger Jaguar badge in the centre. Although, let's not spend too long looking at that panel gap there, shall we? The side vents have had a minor revamp, bringing them in line with the same style that's offered on the new F-Type. And the keen-eyed amongst you will notice there's no exhaust cutouts until you get to the 3-litre V6 or the SVR variant. And something that makes a huge difference, in my opinion, is they now offer black badges with the black pack that comes on the car. So you get the F Pace, the Jaguar badges in black, as well as the black window surrounds, wheels, and the tints to the windows. On our car, the pre-facelift version, even though it had the black pack, these were still silver, and in my opinion it's just weird, it doesn't look right. So well done, Jaguar, that looks great. So as far as the exterior is concerned, that's about all that is different with this. But when you get inside, wow, is it a different beast altogether. Let's jump in and have a look. Wow, this is worlds apart. I'm actually thinking I've made a mistake in borrowing this. I don't know if I'm going to want to get back in my car. This is an absolute step change from the pre-facelift. I'm sitting in here trying to take it all in. This is worlds apart from its predecessor. If it didn't have Jaguar written around the interior in some really quite tasteful places, I'd think I'm inside a Range Rover at this point. There's a lot to talk about in here. So I'm going to do a little bit of a video montage now, showing you how different this interior really is, and then we'll dive into what that actually means. All in all, I think the new interior is such a revolutionary change for the F Pace. It really has modernised it beautifully. It's got rid of some of that aged infotainment system in favour of some more modern tech. And as I said, if it wasn't for those Jaguar bits and pieces around the cabin, I would genuinely think I'm inside a Range Rover. And that's really apparent in what Jaguar are trying to do. They're not borrowing parts out of the JLR family from Land Rover and putting them in their F Pace, which is their flagship 4x4. They're borrowing parts out of the Range Rover, and that really shines through in the quality of the interior and the overall experience. This is a very nice place to be. I think I've shot myself in the foot in having to go back to my pre-facelift. I think this video might have cost me an awful lot of money. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There are a few bits in here where I think they've probably just let themselves down ever so slightly. Take a look at this. I'm hoping the microphone will pick up on this. Doesn't sound great, does it? Same goes for down here. It is padded plastic. It's not just hard plastic, but it's not great. This is just a personal preference thing, but there's no sunglasses holder. I don't really know what that is, but there's nowhere to put your sunglasses anymore. And again, those who watch the channel regularly will know I do like a pair of sunglasses. And they've done away with the suede cloth headlining in favour of just a black fabric, which whilst yes, it's soft and it's quite nice, it's nowhere near as good as that suede cloth in the pre-facelift. We still have this gorgeous panoramic roof, letting in a lot of light with an electronic sunshade that you can pull over. So in terms of spec in this car, we've got the heated steering wheel, very important at this time of year, as you saw earlier on in the video. We've also got adaptive cruise, which sits behind that emblem we were looking at earlier, hence the sort of domed plastic effect to it. Lane keep assist, speed limiter, and I think perhaps my favourite bit is the wireless charger that they've finally put down here. Any of you who watch my channel regularly will know I've recently just fitted a wireless charger to our F Pace, the pre-facelift, which as far as I know wasn't an option, but that comes down there now in the new shape. And the CarPlay is wireless itself, and this screen has got such a good resolution on it. Let me pop it in reverse. It's like reversing in 4K, it's nuts. The clarity on that is bonkers. It really puts the preface to shame. And the parking sensors are a lot more responsive, a lot more fit for purpose. We've also got heated windscreen and heated seats. There is an option you can put cooled seats in. You'd see that filling up blue, the same as this one fills up red, but this car doesn't have that. This is just an arse-bolt forecourt filler. And if wireless CarPlay isn't your thing, you can still go old school. So with all that said and done, let's take this out for a drive and see what it's like on the road. So let's talk about the drive. The first thing you're struck by when you get into this car and you start doing any sort of speed is just how quiet it is. It's phenomenal. It's night and day compared to the preface. I don't know if it's the tyres, the suspension, the way they've insulated the body, I don't know, but this is quiet. The second thing you're struck by is just how responsive the gearbox is, and also how quick the start-stop technology is in this because of that mild hybrid action. It's one thing that really bugs me in the preface that we own is the start-stop. You always have to turn it off when you get into the car if you don't want it on. It doesn't stay off, and it can be quite slow. When you pull up to a junction, if the start-stop kicks in, the engine turns off, you're there, you want to pull out, and there's a lag of about a second, maybe a second and a half before anything actually happens. In this, it's instantaneous. You don't have a conventional starter motor per se, but you have a high voltage motor that goes straight onto the crankshaft, and this thing's just instantaneous. The steering in this is perfectly balanced. When you're moving at speed, it's got a nice heavy feel to it that adds to the stability of the car. But the minute you drop that speed back and you start manoeuvring, it becomes a lot lighter, which makes it a lot easier to move into parking spaces or moving around town. It's just perfectly balanced in both of those environments, and I think they've done a fantastic job there. One thing that does strike me as quite odd is the noise the brake pedal makes. Now, this will be a servo boosted assist, I would guess, unless there's some funky hybrid stuff going on under there, which as far as I'm concerned is some sort of dark magic wizardry. But when you push the brake pedal, every time you get a weird squelch. Now, it's not a huge problem, but if you're sat in the car and you haven't got your music up loud, every time you go to brake, squelch. It's weird. As far as visibility goes, it's really actually quite good in here. It's worlds apart from the F-Type, but then a very different application of vehicle. And you don't really need a huge amount of driving aids. Things like blind spot, this car doesn't have it, but don't really think you need it. You've got an auto dimming rear view mirror to help with the dazzle, and that's about it. These pillars are really slim, doesn't obstruct a lot of your view, and there's not a massive blind spot. You can really see around using those nice big mirrors without too much worry. The 2-litre diesel mild hybrid is a 4-cylinder turbocharged engine with electronic assist, churning out 163 brake horsepower. Now, those 163 horses will catapult you to the top speed of 135 miles an hour, and it will get you from 0 to 60 in 6.9 seconds. Now, we're not going to break any land speed records with that, but for a big, heavy 4x4 Chelsea tractor, that's quite good, I think. Now, if that 163 brake horsepower isn't going to lose you your driving licence just quite as quick as you'd like, rest assured there are different models you can get in the engine department. You can get a 300 horsepower V6 petrol, very similar to the engine, or almost identical to the one that they put in the F-Type. And you can get a 575 brake horsepower supercharged V8 lump in the SVR, which is identical to the engine that they put in the F-Type SVR. And if either of those two don't do it for you, you're probably in the wrong business. Now, a small change, but one that makes a huge difference to the driving experience, is the redesign of these paddles that sit behind the steering wheel. Yes, this car is not a track queen. You're not going to be slapping up and down the gearbox, hammering it through the apex of your favourite corner on your favourite racetrack. Maybe, if that's what you bought this car for, but this is more suited to the Chelsea tractor lifestyle. But what it does mean is that if you want to grab a handful of the gearbox, you can really find that paddle a lot easier, and it makes pulling out of junctions or overtaking on dual carriageways a lot easier. Now, that 2-litre diesel 4-banger churning out 163 brake horsepower will get you anywhere between 35.2 to 46.8 miles to the gallon on the book. Real world, that's anyone's guess until we actually get one and start doing some driving in it, but on paper, that's the figures that are claimed by Jaguar. Now, this thing's not going to break any land speed records anytime soon, but if you kick it over into dynamic mode, knock it down beyond drive into sport mode, it does have quite a bit of poke, and I think that's where you get the assistance from the electric part of that mild hybrid. It does pick up really quickly. In mine, the pre-facelift, that's just a 2-litre diesel, there's no hybrid aspect to it. And when you grab a footful of the carpet through the pedal, it kicks down the gears, it's like stirring a bowl of soup with the gearbox, whereas in this, when you put your foot down, it's instantaneous. And there's no scrambling for gears, the car just gets on with it. And no, it's not going to break the sound barrier, but it just picks up the speed and makes overtaking so much easier and safer. Really well designed. Now let's talk about the big ticket item, the price. And this one's been a really hard one for me to wrap my head around, because the used car and the new car market is drastically different to what it was a year ago, 2 years ago. We can thank Brexit, we can thank COVID, we can thank the Suez Canal, we can thank Russia. The list goes on as to why there are economical crises in place that are impacting the global economy, and it's no secret that the car market has suffered probably a lot more than quite a few other sectors in that. But that said, the book price of one of these on the road, albeit base level, entry level, they start at just a shade over £45,000, I think £45,098, which is a heck of a lot of car for the money, especially when you look at the refinements that have been made to this, and it really firmly plants it in the same league as, in my opinion, a Range Rover Sport or Velar. Going back to scratching that itch, if you want that SVR because the 163 brake horsepower in this isn't going to cut it for you, I think they start from about 78,575. I'll bang it down there, hopefully my memory's right. Which again is a lot of car for the money. When you think you're getting a 575 brake horsepower car, that's a lot of car for the money. If you were to look for the equivalent in a Range Rover, I should imagine you'd be comfortably looking around the £120,000 mark. So this is really bittersweet. This is a lovely car. It's got that mild hybrid technology that I keep talking about. But Jaguar are stopping production of all internal combustion engines by 2025. So it's yet to be seen what their plan is with cars like this. Are they going to completely discontinue the F Pace in favour of things like the I Pace, or are they going to put an electronic engine, well, is it an engine? I don't know, an electronic motor and power plant and transmission into this chassis? And I genuinely hope it's the latter, because this is such a lovely place to be. It's light years ahead of the I Pace. I've really not done myself any favours in testing this car, because I want one. Power's distributed between the front and rear axles in this, because remember, it's an all-wheel drive Haldex to be specific. The way the power's distributed between the two axles is brilliant. The F-Type, if you come out of a corner too quickly, that back end's getting really tail happy. Now I know there's about 400 more brake horsepower in the F-Type, which yes, contributing factor, absolutely. But when you come out of a corner in this, or you put your foot down on a you know, anything other than a straight trajectory, it just grips the road phenomenally. You can really feel the computers doing their bit between the two axles. And that's that famous Jaguar distribution of power between the axles. It will always have the rear wheel drive predominantly in use, and the minute it senses that loss of traction, it will kick over into all-wheel drive, and that's really noticeable, and it really gives a great driving experience. What Jaguar have managed to achieve with this is creating two cars, the original F Pace and the Facelift F Pace, that are so dissimilar but so alike in so many ways. And I think they've been very sympathetic in the way they've designed them and the way they've approached facelifting this model, which is really nice to see. From the outside, it's different enough to look modern, yet still easily identifiable as an F Pace. And what really sort of took me aback was, as you get into the car, you'd be forgiven for thinking you're not even in an F Pace anymore. It doesn't look anything like its predecessor, and it's just a fantastic place to be. Even the entry-level 2-litre diesel's got enough power when you combine it with the mild hybrid technology. You're not really left wanting for anything. As I said earlier, you're not going to break any land speed records in this, but that's not what this car is designed for. This is your grocery go-getter. This is for running the kids down to football practice, or for going out mountain biking for the day with your bikes on the bike rack on your deployable tow bar. That's a fantastic option in these cars. I dare say if you had the SVR variant, it would hold up very well around track. Probably going to spark a bit of controversy with this statement, but I think the car is let down by the Pirelli P0s that come as standard on this. I've just upgraded both of our cars to Continental and to Michelin, and it's night and day in the grip you have on the road. Chapeau Jaguar. I think you've done an incredibly good job in re-imaging the F Pace. It's no secret that Jaguar have had their financial troubles recently. They've been all over the Financial Times and the news, various issues with stock and ownership and sales projections, all that type of thing. But this car I can see very easily catapulting Jaguar back up right next to Range Rover in exactly where they should be in the luxury 4x4 market. And there we have it, a review of the new facelifted Jaguar F Pace. I've really enjoyed my time in this car. A big thank you to Harwood's Chichester for giving me this, giving me the time to enjoy it, and also the time to fall in love with it to the point where I think they're probably going to end up costing me quite a bit of money in the near future. So top marks for your sales tactics, guys, but also top marks for the accommodating and incredibly friendly people at Harwood's Chichester. Thank you. As always, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please think about smashing that button down the bottom, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Oh. Does it? Oh no. Let's try again.